I currently have no drawing skills, and in the next 30 days, I'm going to learn to not only draw, but to 2D animate. You see, for the past 2 years, I've really wanted to learn animation, but how possible is it for someone like me, with my lack of ability to draw, to learn this in a month? The progression I made in this month completely surpassed what I thought was possible. Let me explain. When you look at a video, you're actually seeing 25 images giving the illusion of movement. Well, in an animation, it works in the same way, except you have to draw each frame. It's for this reason that a lot of people that draw animations only draw every second frame. That way you only have to draw 12 images for every second. But still, a 10-second animation is still 120 drawings. And myself at the beginning of the month was barely able to draw a square. Now, I knew that I needed some sort of goal to hit in 30 days. And what I ended up deciding on is recreating this footage by the end of the challenge. And for some reason, I thought a good place to start was to start drawing fruit. But I quickly learned that's probably a waste of time, so I bought a few courses on drawing anatomy, and after practicing this every day, in only about 4 days, I started to see some real improvements. I noticed my drawings getting more human-like, but I still had weaknesses in drawing faces and details. But I could draw well enough that you could kind of see what I was trying to draw. For some reason, every time I draw a person, they end up looking absolutely jacked. So, I think I'm gonna have to learn to draw some clothes. Now, I was pretty keen to start animating as soon as I could, but to do that, I needed to draw digitally. So this is my sister's drawing tablet, so now that we've got this, it means that we can start animating. Turns out, drawing with a tablet is really different to drawing on paper. All the practicing I had done just didn't seem to translate. So I was practicing this for a few days, but luckily once I started to get the hang of the tablet, the stuff I'd learned up to this point started to come back to me. And feeling a little more confident in my skill, I enrolled in an animating course, and this really accelerated my learning. And I just spent days absorbing content and even made my first walk cycle. Excited about my progress, I continued to power through the course material, but then things started to take a turn. So it's 4 o'clock on Thursday, and we're just going to try to pump out as much of this as we can. Let's go. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened, but I know that I was feeling like the task that I set out to do was just daunting over me, and it seemed like all the figure drawing practice I had done had just slipped away for some reason, and everything I was making was just looking off and unrealistic, and I was just starting to lose motivation. I think on this day I spent less than an hour drawing, and I was just focusing on other stuff. Now, I believe that seeing progress equals motivation, and sometimes you just need a bit of a win. So even though I was halfway through the challenge and I hadn't even started on the final drawing, I decided to create something that I could be really proud of that involved more than just walking. And that's when I started to recreate this dancing video. The biggest thing that I implemented into this animation was motion blur. Instead of making every line perfectly straight, I was adding scribbles to the lines to show motion blur like this. And I spent the whole day working on this animation, and this is what I ended up with. I was really happy with this, and I think my plan to get back my motivation actually worked. I spent the next few days practicing more animations and then trying out different things like backgrounds and different character angles, and at the end of the week, I felt ready to take on the final animation. So today is Monday, and it's the first day that we're going to start to work on the final video project of this entire thing. So my aim is to use everything that I've learned in the past week doing all these courses and everything to implement it into this one video and make this an animation. So I've broken this down into a few segments that I want to do first, starting with number 1, which was the background. My guess is the background might take all of today and maybe tomorrow, and then we'll spend the next few days working on the actual character movements. That day was one of the longest days I spent animating. I cranked out both background artworks for each scene, and as it turned out, the backgrounds didn't actually take too long. The next day I started on the characters to go in the video, and I was nervous for this. I drew for 5 hours that morning, but I ended up having to scrap all the work that I did that morning. You see, you need to draw at least 20 frames so you can watch back the animation, and only after watching it can you really see your animation in motion. And when I watched it back, I wasn't happy. It looked rough. So I spent a lot of today making this animation, and I don't know if I'm happy with it. And I think because it's traced, it's actually, I feel like it's missing the thing that animation has the most, which is like a sort of energy. What I'm thinking is I might just start from the beginning and try a different style. Instead of tracing it, I'm going to just like reference the original footage and just see if I can rebuild the character from that, but we'll see how we go. So I spent a few hours playing around with some different styles and it actually went well. Alright, so some good news, I've remade the entire animation and I've tried to make it a bit more stylized, so you know the figures are more exaggerated, and I think that's a style that I prefer a lot more, but it is taking a long time, so that's a little unfortunate. So I was happy with this stylized look, and I don't think there's really that much I can say from here till finishing the project. I just spent the next 4 days working on this, a few hours every day. Didn't even have too many issues colorizing it either. So let's have a look at the result. So obviously this isn't my first time seeing this because I made it, but I did add some music on it, and it's my first time watching it with the music, so might be a little bit different. Anyway, this is the result. It's cute. I am so proud of that. My god, I can't believe we did that. It's been a month of just drawing and learning to draw, but we actually did it. We actually did it. It was interesting finishing this challenge off. 30 days ago, I had the belief that I couldn't draw. I just kind of believed it was something you either had or didn't have. I thought it would be years till I was able to come up with a half-decent animation, but I don't know, just after dedicating a few days to learning this and taking those first few steps, I felt like I could actually create more. And honestly, it feels like the same thing that motivated me on that week where I was just completely hopeless. Sometimes you just need to see a bit of improvement to get that first jolt of motivation.